Good Friday morning to you. Trucker Todd here, and time for another video. Alright folks, before we get into the weekend, I know here it is January. Many of you are job hopping to your next opportunity, hoping for greener grass on the other side of the fence. You guys that have watched a lot of my videos know that I talk about lease purchase a lot. I even did a video a while back, I guess it's been a year or two ago, where I talked about the very best lease purchase. And basically I found a blog. It was intended for another trucking company. It was intended for ATS, but it listed the 4 pros and cons of doing a lease purchase. And I thought the article was really fair. A lot of times these articles will be really slanted to why you should do one or why you should not do one. And this one I thought cut it right down the middle and was very fair. And down in the comments below, I'm going to put a link to this article so you can check it out, this blog. The author's name is Caitlin Sand, and evidently she's an employee over there at ATS. But it was a really good article, and I'm going to share that with you. Speaking of the comments below, you guys leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, share this video on your social media platforms, subscribe while you're down there. We got a lot of stuff coming up next week, including Tuesday. I postponed the guest that I had originally planned to put on that day, and I'm going to do a live where I answer your questions and talk about all the things that's happened lately, including me getting finally on the Swift beta testing of the load board. We're going to talk about some of the interviews I've done lately, things like that, and just generally what's going on. We'll talk about my adventures out in California and having to deadhead back to Texas and all of that. So you want to be a part of that. That'll be on Tuesday. On Wednesday, unless something weird happens, I'll be on the Coaches Roundtable again. And then Thursday, I'm going to be doing another live stream. And of course, I'll announce it later in the week and kind of tell you the title of it and things like that. And I hope you'll join me for all those things. Now, one thing I want to point out before we cue up the music and get started, though, is you guys have to remember that I'm an over-the-road truck driver. Sometimes I'm going to be in areas where my signal's not great. Sometimes, you know, things are going to happen where I'm going to have to cancel or postpone a video at the last minute. Guests are going to not show up from time to time, and we're going to have to improvise. And to me, that kind of makes it part of the fun of watching. You just never know what's going to happen. But you have a commitment from me that I'll be here as much as I can, and I'll try to get you the information that you're looking for. So let me cue up the music. I think I've said enough, and we'll get started. Here we go.
And this is why I do this, why I'm out here, why I keep that hammer down, flying by these road signs with home on my mind, with these wheels turning round, for my family and for my kids, for this life I wanna live. And this is why I do this.
Alrighty, we're back. So again, that article is titled 4 Pros and Cons of Leasing a Semi-Truck. And it goes on to say that she's been with ATS since June of 2013. So she's definitely been around for a while. And basically, I'm going to skip down to the meat of the article. You guys, like I said, the description will be below. You can feel free to go check that out on your own. Basically, she says there's a lot to learn without understanding what you're getting into ahead of time. You may end up getting into a lease agreement you can't easily get out of, or owing the government years of back taxes because you forgot that money wasn't being taken out of your check each week. So that's, you know, I've said this a lot. Before we get too far into this, I'm going to say it again. Read your contract. one thing you can do is ask a company for a dummy contract before you even see the truck or go to orientation. Read that contract. If you don't understand it, get with somebody that does, or pay a couple of $100, get a lawyer to look at it. I can tell you the one here at Swift is pretty simple and straightforward. I did have to call a couple of times and ask for a little bit of clarification, but I was able to understand it. It's a long contract and it takes some time to read, but it's well worth the read to know what you're getting yourself into. I've read my contract 5 times and I still occasionally say, man, I'm going to have to go back and check my contract. I don't remember that part of that section, and it seems like each time I read it I discover something new. So some of you guys that's never read your contract, or it's been a few months, dust it off, read it again, and you might learn something, and you might be glad that you did. Now, she goes on to say there's 2 types of lease driver. There's a lease driver who leases from a trucking carrier. Sorry, it's early in the morning here. And has access to their freight. That'd be what I'm doing currently. The second is a lease driver who leases from a commercial equipment finance company and brokers their own freight. Now, that would be you guys that maybe got an SFI truck and went to Landstar, or you got a Lone Mountain truck, or one of those type companies, and there's a lot of you doing that. You put down a few $1,000s and then you lease on somewhere. And honestly, I could argue for both of those, which is better, which is worse. That's definitely something, if y'all want to ask me about on Tuesday night in the live, we can go in depth into that, and I can tell you the pros and cons of each. And the question I get most asked is, well, why is leasing a truck better than going out and just financing one through a bank? Y'all come Tuesday night and ask me those type of questions, and I'll give you my honest opinion. All right, let's see. Let's go into the pros of leasing a truck. Let's see. It says here, let's say a customer service representative makes $15 an hour, whereas a salesperson is fully commissioned. The salesperson could make more money than the customer service rep, but they could also make nothing. Their income isn't stable, but they have the opportunity to make a lot of money if they plan well and work hard. On the other side of the coin, the customer service rep will only make $15 an hour, but they will receive a consistent, steady paycheck as long as they clock in every day. One of the top benefits of leasing a semi-truck is the potential for big money, but you must remember that with great risk comes great reward. In high school, I was in a program called DECA, and I even went to national level competition in it. Distributive Education Clubs of America. It was a marketing class, and I learned a lot in there, and that was what they defined profit as. I'll never forget it. Profit was the reward for taking risk. And that's, some of you guys, you should never start a lease because you're not a risk taker. You need that steady income week after week, predictable. And for you, I say, stay a company driver. There's no shame in being a company driver, especially your first 4 or 5 years. Be a company driver. Learn the business. If you was going to open a hot dog stand, you'd want to learn everything you could about running a hot dog restaurant before you just open one. And it's the same thing here. Know what you're getting yourself into. Some of you with a lot of financial responsibilities, you need that steady income week after week after week. Some of you, you need the next mountain to climb. And a lease is a great deal for you because the sky's the limit. You can constantly be improving and doing things to further increase your income. And it's not all about income either. It's about freedom, and it's about, the pride that comes along with it. It's about paying off a piece of equipment that you have equity in and that you could sell at a later date, or maybe put another driver in it and get you another new truck or something like that. But I love this analogy because it really fits the bill. When I was in sales, they called it feast to famine. one month you'd be rich and the next month you could be broke. You never knew, so you had to budget, you had to save, because you never knew when your next sale was coming. And so this is a great analogy for some of you guys that are wondering. But yes, the potential is there to make more money. And so that's part of the first one here. It says, number one, you make more money. And I would say for the most part, that's generally true. Many truck drivers may switch to leasing their semi for the opportunity to make more money when compared to being a company driver. Now, as a company driver, drivers receive company-sponsored benefits, so there's your health insurance and your 401ks and all of those things. You're not going to get those things as a lease operator or an independent contractor. I've stated that I get my health insurance from healthcare.gov, and I don't currently have a retirement plan, but that's something I'm going to be looking into later this year. Lease operators have the opportunity to make a larger percentage on each load because they don't have carrier-covered truck payments, insurance, maintenance costs like the carrier would provide a company driver. So basically, the lease drivers getting that extra money that the company driver's receiving in benefits, and how well they manage that money is going to determine what their bottom line profit is. It says lease drivers may sometimes also receive bonus money for completing the lease terms. Yeah, I remember, and golly, this is 20 years ago, maybe longer. Prime had lease completion bonuses, and they were pretty substantial. I want to say they were like $10,000 or $12,000 even back then. And I don't know if they still do or not. I kind of think they do. I don't know if they're that substantial anymore, but you know, in 2000, 2004, a $12,000 lease completion bonus was a lot of money, and it's still a lot of money, but it was a lot more back then. Number two was one of the things I alluded to earlier. You enjoy more flexibility. That falls under freedom, like I was talking about a minute ago. If you want more freight options, being a lease driver may be the right choice for you. Company drivers may need to follow forced dispatch, but lease drivers do not. Now, I would say that's a maybe. I know some lease drivers that are under forced dispatch, and even companies that say, no, we're not forced dispatch. They still kind of force dispatch you. You turn something down and they'll blacklist you, and it's a long time till you get another load offer. I can say, in all sincerity, here at Swift, I've never been forced dispatched. I've turned down as many as 4 or 5 loads in a day, and it was no hard feelings. But I can also tell you companies where it was a big deal. And Swift's been really good. There are some exceptions. There's certain dedicated accounts here at Swift where if you're on that, you know going into it that you lose your rights to turn down a load unless it's hours of service or safety or something, just because they've made commitments to those carriers, or to those customers, and they need to provide a certain level of service. And so make sure if you're taking a dedicated run, not just at Swift but at any company, that you read that dedicated contract before you sign it, and that you know if you have the ability to turn down loads, or if you have any input in where you go or what you do or things like that. Generally, as a company driver, you waive all those rights. They tell you where to go, when to get there, how to get there, where to fuel, all of that. And so it's just something you want to clarify with any company that you're considering for lease or company driver options. Number 3, you pay minimal upfront costs. This is one of the things I'm going to tell you on Tuesday night if you ask me, about financing a truck or doing a lease. There's a lot of dealerships right now that are wanting 40% down if you're a first-time truck buyer. Even your Lone Mountains and your SFIs oftentimes are wanting $6,000 to $10,000 down. And so many of the leases, the company-sponsored leases like I'm in, are 0 down. I know Swift is saying that sometime real soon here they're going to start charging $2,500 down and let you pay that down over 27 weeks if you don't have the money up front. I also encourage you guys to have at least $5,000 to $10,000 in a savings account before you start a lease. Just in case something happens right out of the gate, you've got a little bit of nest egg. You guys know at the previous carrier I was at, within about a 3-month span, I had 2 breakdowns that lasted 3 weeks apiece. And I had pretty good savings at the start of that, but down near the end, it was getting close. I was stretching pennies. And so people always ask me, how much should I have in savings? And I would tell you, there's not a ceiling. You need as much as you can get. I had one repair at Roadrunner that was $43,000, and even Roadrunner was going, nay, nay. So we ended up switching me into another lease truck. But your repair on a Cummins could be $43,000. And so the truth is, you need to save just as much as you can, and you need to be ready for anything. Now, fortunately, in this truck, I've got a really good warranty, and I've got a company standing behind me that it's not guaranteed, but I could possibly borrow money from if I got in over my head. Definitely could get a loaner truck. They do charge for those. I've heard it's 6 cents a mile for the loaner truck, but there's definitely options. If I went to a bank and got one, most of those options would not exist to me. And so the other great thing about the minimal upfront costs, it says, is that you don't need great credit to lease. So I think I read a deal a while back that like 83% Americans had bad credit. And so this is the only option for a lot of guys, because good things happen to bad people, and sometimes credit can be a hurdle for a lot of people. And to be honest, it's been a hurdle for me a large portion of my life. All right, number 4, reason pro. The fourth and final pro we're going to talk about, you get to be your own boss. And again, I would give that one a maybe too. It depends on the company. Definitely here at Swift, they treat you that way. I don't feel like a glorified company driver here. But do some calling around and you'll find trucking companies. I ran into a couple this last week where they will micromanage you to death. I'm talking about inward-facing cameras. I'm talking about recording audio in the cab. I'm talking about them regulating your home time. You got to stay out at least 3 weeks. You got to stay out at least 6 weeks. When you go home, you can only take 2 days off or 3 days off. And as an independent contractor, and again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not speaking on behalf of any company, I believe it's illegal for a company to regulate you as far as when you can go home and things like that. I've never experienced that with Swift. They've been nothing but great to me when it goes to home time and things like that. Now, sometimes it's hard to get me home because of where I live, but nobody's ever told me, no, you can't go home. You go home too much. Nothing like that. As long as I can make the truck payment, nobody seems to care. And I like it that way, to be honest. All right, it says also, I want to go a little more on this fourth point because she does make some great points here. You decide when you run, where you want to run, and how long you want to run. You decide when you go home and make your financial decisions. It's a lot of responsibility, but many drivers thrive in this environment. Now, that's true. Many guys do well in this environment. I have seen it destroy some guys. I've said before, I knew a guy at Roadrunner that his first 7 weeks with Roadrunner, he worked exactly a week. And he had every excuse in the book. Had to put his CB in, went to a family reunion, and then called me and wanted me to talk to Roadrunner and see if I could get them to waive his truck payments for a couple more weeks. And I said, no, I'm not going to help you with that one. But it's also saying that drivers who lease with a trucking carrier also have the support of the carrier. It's a great way to learn the ropes of booking your own freight. That's true. That's how I learned load brokers and all of that. I started at Roadrunner. They had one broker they used, and I got comfortable calling him and working with him. His name was Mike, and he was great. And he answered a lot of questions and taught me a lot of things. Then I went to DART. I got on the OPI board. I had 87 brokers. I negotiated my own rates. I actually turned the rate confirmations into Dart, so Dart didn't even know what the load paid until I sent them the rate confirmation. And I really got an education there. I did that for a couple of years before coming here to Swift after the rates on the spot market dropped. Now, it's my understanding before everybody rushes to Dart that they've got a freeze on hiring for the OPI board, and so you may or may not be able to get on that. But I'm just telling you how I learned. I'm not recruiting for them or anything like that. Now let's get into the 4 cons of leasing a semi-truck. You have to make weekly payments, and this is a big one because it's going to include truck payments and all the little fees. I've said before that when I was on Swift stuff before I got my own insurance and everything, my truck payment was $676 a week, and then I had everything you could get in the way of insurances and optional coverages, and it was $285 a week. All in, I was a little over $900 a week. So you want to take 3 weeks off, no problem, but know that you're going to owe the company probably close to $3,000. And some companies will let you go in the red, and some companies want that money up front. So you need to clarify that with any company you're considering too. I've never been that far in the hole. I've only been in the hole once here at Swift for 1 week, and it was because I was supposed to T-call a load, and I ended up keeping the load. Had I T-called it, I wouldn't have been in the hole. But since I went ahead and delivered it, that trip went on the next week's pay. It was no harm, no foul. Swift wasn't mad. They weren't demanding their money right then. But it more hurt my pride than anything because I loved bragging I'd never been in the hole at Swift. But it says that how high your weekly lease payment will depend on how new your truck is and the condition of the equipment you're leasing. This will also determine if you have to put a down payment when you take out the lease. So just be mindful of that. It's you owe those truck payments and that insurance whether the truck moves or not. And the number one question, I've got guys that call me and say, can I work 3 days a week and make $3,000 a week? Probably not. And as soon as I say that, there's somebody out there that's doing it. But in dry van freight, you need to be working, and when you want to go home, you need to plan for it. Now, I take a lot of time off, but there's a lot of planning and preparation that goes into that. And so if you guys got questions about that, you can ask me more about that on Tuesday night as well. It goes on to mention how every lease is a little different, and it says to read the fine print closely. I don't even think it's fine print anymore. Just read it. A lot of these contracts are between 50 and 70 pages. Take the time and read it. Know what you're getting yourself into. Just like you date someone before you marry them to know what you're getting into, you want to read this contract before you sign it so you know what you're getting yourself into. Here's one that it should be common sense, but you'd be surprised. I'll give you some examples. Number 2 for the con, you have to pay the fuel, maintenance costs, and more. I had a guy that had a truck for 6 months, and he ran over something and blew a tire and was mad because the company wasn't paying for the tire. He didn't understand that. Now, he got this far into it and didn't understand that he had to take care of the maintenance on the truck. I had another person that they asked me, I've actually had several of these, they've asked me, will Swift help you out with the fuel? And I'm like, yeah, whatever's in the truck, when you get the truck, you get that. They do have a very good fuel surcharge, and they have a decent, an okay discount on fuel, not great. My fuel card's better. That all information's also down in the comments and description below. But you've got to shop prices on fuel. You've got to buy fuel differently as a independent contractor than what you did as a company driver. And so that's why I tell you guys to get 5 years experience before you do this. Ask a lot of questions from guys that are doing it and are successful at it so that you make good decisions when that time comes. Number 3, we got to get through this. We're going way longer than I wanted to, but I do want to say also, a lot of these big companies have great maintenance discounts if you use their shops, and that can be another I would call it a pro for doing a lease, but they often extend those discounts to anybody that's leased onto them, even if you've got outside financing for your truck. So ask whatever company you're considering about maintenance discounts as well. All right, number 3, taxes can be tricky. I don't think there's a week since I started YouTube that somebody hadn't asked me about taxes, and I usually run for the hills for tax questions. You guys know I was using a very large trucker tax service, and I was not very pleased with them. I was with them for a lot of years, and I recently got a new tax service that I'm very happy with. I'm going to be sharing the details about that in the coming weeks, and I'm going to try my best to get them on my live and interview them, let them tell you what they have to offer and answer your tax questions. So taxes can be tricky. Do not use your big chain rapid refund places. Get you somebody that specializes in trucker taxes, somebody that'll get you profit and loss reports, somebody that'll figure your quarterly taxes, and somebody that'll give you great advice so that you can kind of manage this from the beginning. But questions about how much should I save and all of that, stay with me, make sure you're subscribed, because I'm going to ask those type of questions when I get my new tax service on, and I'm also going to let you ask questions too, and we'll try to get a clear answer that everybody can understand. So I hope you guys will join me for that. And the 4th con is, and I don't know that this is a con, this is one of the things I like. Success requires extensive planning and dedication. I agree completely, but to me, I like the challenge of it. Let's face it, I mean, something happens different every day in trucking, but after a while it can get monotonous and kind of boring. And being an independent contractor is a challenge. It's fun, and there's always something new you can learn. I've told you guys before, I by no means know it all, and I constantly call people more experienced than me, ask them what their opinions are and things like that. And I've been at this for 25 years. So there's still things I'm learning every day, and there's hopefully things you're still learning every day. And that's the main reason of this channel, is hopefully we can help each other, learn together, and try to make trucking a better experience for everybody. But the main thing, and she actually underlines it in this article, you're running your own business. I think, it's funny, a lot of people say that, and then when the truck breaks, they're like, well, I wonder what the company's going to do about their truck. No, it's your truck. It's your responsibility. If the company chooses to help you, that's great. But if they say it's your baby, fix it, it's your baby, fix it. Another suggestion, I hope you guys can hear me. I'm pulling a reefer tonight, and I just realized that it's vibrating through the truck pretty bad. The article goes on at the end to give 4 tips for leasing success. Number 1, I think I've mentioned it a few times already, is do your research. Know what you're getting yourself into. Read your contract, things like that. It says you have the potential to make 5 times more than if you worked with a carrier, but you could also make 5 times less. Yeah, there's no golden egg here. You're not guaranteed anything. You're going to have to work for everything, and a lot of it's going to come down to you and the decisions you make and how you run your business. 2 is read your contract's fine print. We've already covered that, so we'll skip over that one. But part of that one is also ask about the truck's warranty. This is something I've been terrible about doing. I did ask here, but and I don't even remember. I know somebody's gonna say, well, what's your warranty, Trucker Todd? I don't even remember what they said. I've got it written down somewhere, but I was comfortable that it was going to be the length of my lease, and so but a warranty, there's a lot of loopholes there, and so you even with the warranty, you still need to be saving for maintenance and things like that. because sometimes one part can cause another part to fail, and if that one part caused that other part to fail, it may not be covered under warranty. So you've still need to have some money put back just in case. It says number 3, get good at saving money. And I think I've preached that this whole video. Constantly be saving. Whether it's that you're going to take a vacation later in the year or you're going to cover a major breakdown, you need to always be putting money back. If for no other reason than taxes, be putting money back. Be prepared for anything. Number 4 is a big one, and I've been fortunate here, and I'll tell you why. Talk to your dispatcher about freight options. Communication with the carrier you're working with or the broker you're working with is really very, very important. I may even do a video about this at some point. My OOC here at Swift, which at a lot of companies would be a dispatcher, driver manager, whatever you want to call him, he and I get along great. We have a great working relationship, and because of that, it makes it easy when I need a load going somewhere or when he needs me to do something to help him out move a load or something. Like right now, I'm pulling a reefer. I'm normally not in the reefer division, but I'm helping out. And so sometimes be willing to do things that you normally don't want to do. I've got more reefer experience than I do dry van experience. I just don't want to pull a reefer anymore. But I'm doing it in this instance. This is the second time in the past 7 months that I've pulled a reefer. And sometimes you gotta be a team player and help out. And here's another one, another suggestion: lease with a top company. I went to the largest trucking company over the road in the country. I realize some of you are going to say UPS or something like that, but Swift has a lot of trucks, and because of that, they have a lot of freight, and they have a lot of trailers, and they have a lot of opportunities. And I learned since I got here that they have a lot of good people, and that's why I push this company, and that's why I encourage you guys to, even if you don't want to work here, call and see what opportunities they got, see what they have to offer. That's why I put Michelle's number and stuff at the bottom of these videos. Sure, I would appreciate it if you told her you were watching Trucker Todd. That would help me. I do receive money for that, but even if you don't, still call and get the information, and I think you'll be glad that you did. All right, let's keep going so we can get through this. It's going to be a really long video. It has some links here, companies they recommend that they think have a good lease program, and then they talk about ATS's lease options as well. So as I said, I thought that article was really fair and balanced, and that's why I went ahead and shared it with you. But now we're getting near the 30-minute mark, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this video off. I want you guys to have a great weekend, and join me on Monday. I'll be back pretty much Monday through Thursday. I'm on every day, and I'll try to have something for Friday too. Y'all take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.